Hello, my beautiful Earth Soul family. Welcome to my channel. You've got Janae on the channel. And I am so excited for this message today. Um, I have sat on this one for a while, and it just wasn't the time. And after a few experiences in the last couple weeks, I knew it was time. And I smile because what I want you to understand is every message that I deliver, I channel, is something that I've personally been through myself. So everything that I am giving, I've already been through or worked through. And it's coming from a place of deep knowing and understanding. So as I say that, today's message, the title is Don't React, Respond. And I'm really excited about this one. So it's going to actually come with some very strong honesty. I'm going to tell a little bit of my story in it. So, first, we're going to start with the definition. You know, I like to break down words and phrases because sometimes we lack a true depth and understanding of words. And if you have the concrete definition first, then you can place it in it, you can put it in its right place. So first we're going to start with the word react. React is an action performed or a feeling experienced in response to a situation or an event. When you react, you do it from an emotional state. And I said that's your shadow side that you haven't learned to temper yet. You're reacting because something made you feel some type of way. We know the message I delivered about 2 weeks ago was, what was it? Feelings versus emotions. So this is like a part two to that. And it's making you understand reacting or responding to those feelings and our emotions because we want to feel. We don't want to be emotional, just like we want to react. We want to respond, not react. And that comes with being in tuned with your inner self, with your higher being, being a divine light, and knowing how to respond in each situation. So now we're going to go into respond, is to say something in reply to. And that is when you've taken the moment to truly understand what you're feeling and then responding to that. Not just reacting based off an emotional response, because we all do that. We don't take the time to stop and listen. It's just kind of like when they talk about the stoplight, stop, look, and listen before you cross the street. You want to stop, look, and listen when you are in a situation that you realize has emotionally affected you. And a lot of times when something emotionally affects you, then that means that's something that you need to deal with at that point. There's something that spirit is telling you, okay, that's a trigger. Let's dive into that. Let's look into why that affects you. Is it childhood trauma? Is it emotional trauma? Is it just life trauma? Is it something you haven't healed from? And how are we going to heal that? Every situation that you get into is giving you an opportunity to learn something about yourself, to find your highest self. And people so often pray and meditate and ask for strength and guidance and certain things. And the thing is, it's not about all of a sudden just getting the ability to do that, but you are going to have situations presented to you where you can move in that authority, where you can stop yourself and go, I'm being tested. I'm being given the opportunity to look within and respond differently and not react to something that is triggering me or hurting me or bothering me, but to go within and find out, why did that bother me so much? Why did that cause me to react in that way? And so instead of just reacting, this is teaching us to stop, find our boundaries and our safe place, and then going into that place and finding out, okay, now how do I respond in a loving, high vibrational, peaceful way to where now I can be understood, and not only understood, but now I can understand why that person triggered that. And in that, you can also help heal that other person, because I can guarantee you they reacted as well. Um, and it's okay to have a moment to stop. You don't always have to respond immediately. If something has been said to you or come across to you and you realize that it's creating an emotional space, at that point you need to exert your boundary and say, okay, I appreciate your words or whatever it may be. I need a minute to sit on that. A lot of times we get into an emotional state and we immediately want to react to that emotional state. That is a dangerous place. That is a shadow place. That is an unhealed place. We want to be able to recognize that feeling, because we want to feel, and then respond to it in kind. And in kind, we want to do it in the kindest way we can. We want to do it in our light and a high vibration. People so often cannot, they can't understand or sympathize with the situation because they're having an emotional response. They don't care about what you said or how you felt because of the way it was delivered. They're just thinking about how they're feeling in that moment, and they don't like it. And so you're going to get usually an angry response because, or a reaction, because they didn't take the time to understand. They just heard the words and it triggered them in a way. And so now you've got two people who are up in arms, who are arguing. And that's not just in a romantic relationship, that's in a friendship, that's in your relationships with your family, your friends, your coworkers. It totally covers every aspect of the way that you communicate with other people. And so this is so imperative that you are able to temper that and understand and have a deep knowing of yourself, so that whenever you are having these interactions, you're being a beacon of light of how to communicate through that. Self-love is knowing yourself. That's the light and the dark. Because it's not about just one, it's duality. It's about balance, about balancing the light and dark. We use the dark not only for protection, but a deep understanding of self, of wounds, and what needs to be healed. And also what may need to be healed in other people that you are going to be a catalyst of growth to. And so if you know your limits, you can hold safe boundaries. And that's very important, because in conversations where you may have an emotional response, because you know your safe boundaries and yourself and your shadow aspects, you can now stop in that boundary, take a time deep within, and then respond in kind. So, one thing about reactions and responses are they're both verbs, but one is more physical and one is more mental. A reaction is physical. You are usually going to have some type of outburst with a reaction. And it's not going to come from a balanced, beautiful place. It's going to come from an emotional damage, an emotional place. Even if it's not negative. If you have an overexpression of love, and love is great, but there still needs to be a balance of that. It can't be obsessive. And you can't just pour. And if you're somebody who is very an attached style, then you're just pouring all this extra, and that can be very overwhelming to another person. And so then you're going to react when you're not getting that back in kind, in return. And so the mental aspect is the response. It's inner self going within, understanding, and then verbalizing that back in a healthy way, even in the love space of saying, I love myself so much that I don't need to feel like I need to love bomb someone or overdo it. That love is so divinely ingrained in you that you don't need to just pour it out on somebody for someone to give it back to you, because really that's where that comes from. You need someone to just pour that love back into you, so you just dump it all out like an ocean. And as beautiful as an ocean is, it's overwhelming. It's so vast, and you can drown in that. So you want to be like a slow flowing stream, a trickling, babbling brook, where it's just slow, calm moving. And when you feel those places where you feel like I need, get that from yourself. That love, let that extra love that you need and want, let it pour onto you. And if there's this anger, don't pour it on someone else. Go within your shadow. Discover what that is. Know yourself in such a way where shadow can't affect you in that way, because you are so in tune with yourself that you can recognize it, even in a space of love. Because what people don't understand is that shadow is also duality. Although there's a negative aspect to it, that's also in a loving, kind space where it may be too much, and it's from a desperation, or even from a dark, brooding place of pain and hurt and turmoil. So understand that in both aspects, there's a healing that needs to take place, and that responsibility is on you. It is on you to heal yourself. It is on you to love yourself, not someone else, not to get that from someone else, but to be so wholly ingrained in you that you can give yourself what you need. So, when we're talking about some of the dark aspects of the reason why you may be responding or reacting, don't allow anger to overshadow your pain. Now, see, just like I said, it's okay to stop our conversation to process how you're feeling. Feelings and emotions, they come up, but it doesn't mean that you need to respond immediately. A lot of times, you need to get into a better place to express or discuss those things, which is also knowing your boundaries. And people around you who are meant to be in your light and in your life will understand that and have the respect for that. If someone is pushing you out of your comfort zone to tell me do this, then that's not someone who respects you. That's not someone who cares about your well-being. And you may have to put up an energetic boundary, and you have to say, you aren't respecting my boundaries, so I won't be moving any further in that. And until it's a safe, open space, that has to be on pause. And in that pause time, you can work on yourself. You can transmute that energy, and really dive into what it is that you've learned from it. So in saying that, I love to give parables and examples, and this time it's going to be my own. So recently, I told you that I have been seeing the fruits of my labor. I have been seeing things change around me. There's a harvest from implanting seeds, and I'm seeing growth in so many people in my life. And there are people that I have reintroduced to my life since my Fool's journey. And it's funny because when you take the first part of your journey, it's a self journey, it's self-love. And after you've gone through that, it's not just, oh, I'm done. Now, the next part of the journey is putting words and knowledge into action. It's now seeing all those things that you learned. Well, now we're going to test it. You learned it, put it into action. Just like when you go to school and you study and you learn a topic, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you have spent all that time with books and educational tools to learn, but it's not until the doing where things have really deeply ingrained themselves. A doctor's not going to know how to do surgery just from reading books. They're not going to learn how to operate because they did it on a dummy in a classroom, but because they got in that body. They worked firsthand. So now these divine sources are saying, hey, you said you wanted to be more kind, more loving. You wanted to help me be strong, help me to be a light and a guide. Well, now I've taught you all these things. You've learned and digested all these things. Let's implement them. You're back on the testing ground. You're in a whole new fool's journey in an elevated state. Now you're working out your process. So me and this friend of mine have been learning a lot about each other and ourselves. And in this new phase of relearning each other and understanding, situations will always arise. You're going to have discussions and feelings and emotions and all that. So a situation presented itself that was from the past. And it's cyclical, as you know, as I said, it's another cycle. So something else came up that from the past in the present. And I was presented with a situation, and it was so funny because I was not prepared for it. I was not prepared, and you're never prepared. That's how it works. You're not prepared for someone else's emotions or feelings. And in the moment, you have to be able to be like, oh, wait a minute, something's happening. And so when they came to me with this concern, one thing I wanted to say was it came totally different. It came in discussion, and it was from a respectful place of asking me something. Well, when the question came to me, oh man, I was immediately triggered. I got hot. My body was definitely reacting to this question because it brought up hurt and pain from situations that we have dealt with previous. And so immediately I was like, oh no, I don't like how that feels. And as I'm in my body and this question is being presented to me, I'm like, whoa. Why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me that? I don't like this. So at the time, my first reaction was emotional because it hit me in the heart space. And one of my things of growth has been dealing with that. I am one of the people who, if I don't like something, I'm like, I'm out. And Spirit's been dealing with that because it's like, how can you have relationships if you can't deal with these things? You can't just cut and run. Then you'll be by yourself, but then you're not learning anything. And you can't be the beacon of light and work with people because you're cutting and running. And so Spirit was like, sit and listen. And so as I'm trying to explain myself, it's just a jumble of thoughts. You know, I tell you, I'm neurodivergent, ADHD. And at that point, I recognize my body is going into a trauma response. I'm having an entire PTSD moment. I explained it to my friend as when a soldier who's been in war thinks they're good, they're with their family, they're enjoying a good day, and they're just doing whatever, and all of a sudden they hear fireworks or gunshots, and it sends them back to another place, and they're diving under tables, and they've been just thrown back into an old place when you think you're healed and you're okay, and then boom, something triggers that emotional response. And I was having that moment, and we both started to go into our south nodes. You can feel the emotions, the anger, the sadness. It was just a lot going on, and I'm trying to explain myself, they're trying to explain themselves, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. We're defending ourselves rather than understanding each other's sides. And it's not always about agreeing, but about being in a healthy enough space to hear it, listen, understand it, and respect it, whether you agree or not. And then coming to a mutual space in that. How can we both respect each other's boundaries in this? How can we hear each other? How can we sympathize with each other? How can we have empathy for each other? And I took a deep breath because I, if you know me, I have emotions and I have feelings, but I do not like to show them. And we said, oh, it makes me feel weak. And let me be clear in saying that is not a weakness. But because of the traumas that I've been through and the things that I've dealt with, whether with friends or family or my life path, it has made me put a block, a shield. And you can't move through life in healthy places and heal if you are constantly putting up a shield and going, ooh, not dealing with that. So in that moment, as I took a deep breath, I am trying to explain to them and immediately got extremely emotional. I didn't even, I was shocked by it as well because I was like, oh, I thought I've healed from that. And it's like, oh, you did healing, but now you have to heal in working in that space. Now you have to do it with another person. And I was like, oh. And I immediately, like, I could feel the tears well up. And usually that's something I do on my own. And so to have such a raw, open, honest, and vulnerable state, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful place to be. It's being transparent and open and honest with yourself and that person. And people need to see that. I started to cry, and then I got uncomfortable, and I just, my reaction was to immediately like block it. And I was just like, no, I covered my face. And they were like, no, it's okay. Uh, like, I need to see that. Don't hide from that. I need to see how I'm affecting you because it's making me understand what I'm doing. I don't understand if you don't show me. And they allowed me to take a minute. And I took a moment to myself. It was a very brief moment, but I just, in that moment, I needed to stop and put that on a forefront and say, what is this? Why am I reacting this way? And immediately came back to the conversation, and we came to a better understanding. But I knew that it was kind of like it was in limbo. It was not completely finished. I gave my response. They did not like it. And you also have to realize that when you present something to somebody, you're not always going to like the answer you get. But you need to be prepared for that because it may not be what you expect. And you can't immediately think, oh, well, they're being petty or no, there's a reason for that. So you need to be able to be prepared for the response that you're going to get and be okay with that. And then want to know why. So a few days passed from that conversation, and I did a lot of transmuting. I realized, okay, this affected me in ways I wasn't prepared for. I need to take a deep dive into that. I need to understand what's going on. And boy, I did a lot of journaling. Y'all know. Hold on, let me tag it in. You know how I feel about journaling. Now that's not for everybody. In your journey, you will find out what your creative release is. Is it and it's been different things for me at different times. That's been revealed to me. As I go along, my body will move, my intuition, which is a strong, powerful force that you need to be in tune with. Your inner knowing yourself will guide you to how to transmute that situation. How do you heal it? How do you feel it? How do you got to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it. Um, And so I journaled and journaled and journaled. And as I journaled, it was healing. I was understanding things. And the reason I say journal, because it slows my mind down enough. If you're neurodivergent or you know anything about ADHD, you know that your brain is like, it's doing a million things at once. Now, in some right, it can be a superpower, and other times it can be a detriment. And it can just completely take over you, and you can go into a state where you just kind of do a shutdown. So many things you want to do and express and be, and you can't. And so writing slows me down enough because I can only write so fast. I'm a writer anyway. So as I'm writing, I'm like, whoa. And writing used to be a way that I communicated, but that can't be my only form of communication. I can't always be sending off letters or text messages. I need to be able to speak to you so that you can work with me. You can work with me. You can see that emotion. You can see I can speak to you. You can hear my words, feelings. It's putting you in that space. When you're just texting or reading it, it doesn't always come with the emotional backing, so that you can really understand what that person is saying. So that's what I've been going through. And so after lots of journaling and meditating and discussing and tapping in with divine, with source, and speaking to my higher self and saying, okay, this is why this bothered you so much. Now, how are you going to communicate this in a healthy way where it doesn't send you into an emotional spiral? And it took a few days, and I waited, and I told this person, I said, hey, I would like to have a moment to talk with you. And a good thing to do is not just throw stuff on people. Sometimes when we're in an emotional state, that's not the time to discuss some things. Sometimes you have to give that person also the space to be able to receive your words. And I gave like a foreshadowing. I said, I want to talk to you about something. I want to make sure that you are in a mental and emotional state to handle that discussion. I want you to hear me. I want you to really listen to what I'm saying and give me the space to speak to you open and honestly. I told them this is a very a vulnerable place for me. I explained that I have not done this before, not in a healthy way, and that this was definitely a space of healing for me, and I needed them to just really, really, really internally hear me. And to give me that space. Don't rush me. Don't talk over me. If there's something you want to say, write it down or just memorize it when we're done. Respond to me. But give me the space to put my heart on the table. And they were like, okay, okay. So as I start speaking, they're like me. They start hearing it, and they're ready to hear the end. They're waiting to hear, well, what's the problem? And I can feel the energy kind of amping up. And I was like, wait a minute. I said, just give me a minute. I want you to know that I just want to speak to you. I want you to just hear what I'm saying. It's not about a build up to a final thing. I want you to hear the whole thing. I'm just speaking to you. And they were like, okay, okay, I can chill out. I'm like, then I don't want you to feel like I'm coming to attack you or I'm waiting for this big question. I just need you to just kind of hear what I'm saying and digest it. And they were like, okay, I respect that. I can do that. I was like, walk around, take a seat, whatever you need to do, but just kind of help me with this for a minute. I said, I'm really nervous, which is crazy because I communicate. I could talk to people, but that's when I'm trying to help somebody else. Now I'm putting myself in the seat and I'm saying, okay, now I'm doing it. I'm gonna communicate with you in a vulnerable way, in an honest way that I'm not so comfortable with, but I'm trying to grow and heal, and I'm putting my skills into action that I've worked through. Now we're using what was learned. So we discuss, and I put out how I felt. I know in another message I told you guys to use I statements. It's not about an accusatory tone. You did this or you did that, because a lot of times people can't hear past the you. And so I said, I'm feeling this way. And this is why. And when we spoke, this is what I heard. I'm coming to you for clarity. Is this what you meant by this? I don't want to assume anything, but I want you to know when you communicated with me, this is what I heard. Is that the truth in your words, or is that because this is what I'm feeling emotionally from other things? Which is also healthy, because sometimes we hear people's words when they're speaking and we're not understanding where they're coming from. Everybody communicates a different way. So we're not really seeing the heart of that person. We're doing it from the way that we see it. You know, they say when you tell a story, there's the left, the right, and the middle. There's that person's story, there's the other person's story, and then there's the truth in the middle. And you have to be willing to have those discussions to say, what did you mean by that? Maybe they did mean it that way. And maybe they did and they didn't mean to put it out that way. It was an emotional response. Maybe they didn't mean it that way and that's how you took it because it came from a place of your understanding, the way you see things in the situation. So as we spoke, it was an extremely beautiful experience. There was so much growth in that. Not only were we able to, in a very healthy way, open and loving way, understand each other's side and see the hurts or the pains or whatever came from the past, we were able to see, how do we hold a safe space and boundaries now in that? How can we respect each other's autonomy in this? How can we respect each other's path while feeling these separate things or believing them in a different way? And man, I felt like I had grew a ton. It was like the little Grinch heart that kept growing. And I was like, whoa, that was amazing. We really took the space to understand not only in that moment why things were triggered, but what happened in past situations that created that dynamic. So not only were we able to heal that one situation, but we were able to heal past situations that we had gone through. And man, it was beyond transformative. And I just went, that was beautiful. We were very open and honest. And not only now do I understand that person in another way, but they understand me in another way. And we could honestly take responsibility for the parts that we played, past and present. Not only did it help me see another side of this person, but of myself as well. And in such a healthy way. And I'm still smiling about it because that's why I couldn't deliver the message yet. I had to go through some things so that it could come from a deep knowing and understanding, and now I can bring it back. And I want to encourage you to not be afraid to be honest and open. So many times people don't communicate because we're worried about how people are going to respond to what we're saying. Are they going to respect me? Are they going to be angry at me? It's not about that. It's about being able to communicate in a healthy way, to exercise healthy boundaries, and to be able to get closer in a very healthy way to heal traumatic responses or reactions. So when you are talking to somebody, whether it's romantic, platonic, family, work, you want to be able to stop and recognize what you're feeling in that moment and then respond to it at a time when your spirit is aligned with peace, when you can do it from a high vibrational place. Know what your boundaries are. Know yourself. If you can't communicate if you don't know yourself, if you don't understand why something is affecting you the way that it is. And be okay with diving into that shadow aspect of yourself. Be okay with being open and vulnerable and honest enough to express that. We talked about the difference between being vulnerable and honest, and it's really the same. But one word makes you feel a little bit more um, cracked open, like there's a problem. But there's nothing wrong with using the word vulnerable because it is a vulnerable state. You're putting yourself out there. But you can't grow if you're not open to what you're feeling. If you're not okay with expressing that and letting somebody in to that space. And that also takes unconditional self-love. Knowing yourself, understanding what your limits are, holding boundaries, being respectful to someone and to yourself, for yourself. You have to be your greatest ally. So in saying that, don't allow your anger to overshadow your pain. When we have emotional responses out of anger, it's shielding us from really expressing our pain and hurt. When I started crying, oh my God, I was like, oh no. But it was healthy. I didn't block it and it go into an angry place. I said, oh, okay, this is something I need to deal with. And that also gives that person the chance to show you who they are in that moment. You have to give people chances to show you how they're going to show up for you. Another thing in that is using humor. A lot of times I laugh when there's awkward situations, but it lightens the situation. Also, laughter is so high vibrational, and sometimes I use humor. It can extinguish a situation when you feel it getting really heightened. Cracking a little joke, or just kind of like saying, "Oh, we need to take a minute. Let's bring it back." And taking a moment to see each other. And when you laugh, it kind of breaks down that little angry space. So use your tools. How are you using and wielding your weapon? Sometimes a weapon, it is there for protection, but doesn't mean you always got to pull it out. You may have a gun, don't mean you need to pull it out and brandish it and toss it, but you have it when you need to really protect yourself, when you're in true danger. But if you're not in danger, why are you pulling it out? Because you're scared? That's an emotion you're having. You're scared, okay. Well, has that situation presented something to truly be, truly be scared of, that you're in danger of? No. You haven't been attacked. You're just uncomfortable in that situation. So how are we going to use that? We're going to say, okay, I know I have it, but let's assess the situation. Let's be fully embodied in this situation. And your weapon is your words. A lot of times we use words as weapons that cut like a knife. And do we want to use it in a loving, healing way, or do we want to cut people down? Remember that words hold power. The power of life and death is in the tongue. It's how you manifest things. When you are speaking, you want to stay in a high vibrational loving space, because if you're if you're using your words as a weapon, all you're doing is cutting. It's hurting. How can we heal in those words? How can we help growth with those words? Be honest about what you're feeling. Be transparent in what you're feeling. Be honest. Don't expect someone to know how you feel. Explain yourself. It was like, well, you should know. That responsibility is not on that person. They shouldn't know. How are they going to know if you didn't express it? They're not psychic, and even if they are, that's not their place. That's your place from a healed place. There's a spot. Okay, sorry. Distracted. No one's just gonna know. We're not Miss Cleo. And even if they do, we have those gifts. It's not for you to expose somebody else's truth. That's for them. So make sure that you're being honest with yourself and your feelings, and that you're expressing them in a healthy way. So as I say this, I want you to take those times. If you have things that have been sitting on you, pressing on you, you're not meant to hold that. How do you think people get sick? It's from holding all that pain. I learned a lot of that from watching people in my family, in my inner circles, who didn't heal from things, who didn't discuss them. So many families don't discuss stuff. They just hold it in, hold it in, hold it in. And nobody is healing. They're just taking another generational curse and passing it on down. People who can't speak and be healthy. Be the catalyst of change in your family, in your inner circles. Be the one that says, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that cycle again. I'm not going through that. I'm not going to put that out in the universe. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to move in light. I want there to be a difference in who I am and how I communicate. Let's heal. Let's be better. You may be the one in your family that changes everything. I always say that just because somebody is grown doesn't mean that they're grown up, right? Just because someone has been in the earth cycle for 70 years doesn't mean that they learned anything in that time. That just means they got old. A 15-year-old can still teach a 70-year-old. It has nothing to do with age. It's experience and healing and going into self and learning about yourself and healing past traumas of your own and ones that have come from your lineage. So I encourage you guys to be the catalyst of change that you want to see in the world, that you want to see in your family, that you want to see for your children, the light that you want to embody. And you will be, it's a domino effect. When you heal, those around you heal. Your light seeps into other people. You can't help it. I always say, the dark always has to submit to the light. And it does. It does. Be that light. Be that love. Be that healing. First for yourself, and then for others. So, do we have a power statement? Do we have words of affirmation? I've used this one, but it just popped up again. So that must mean that we need to do it again. I am healed, whole, and free. Even if you don't feel you are, we're speaking words of life into ourselves. I am healed, whole, and free. You can even say that for people that you love. Put their name in response. You are healed, whole, and free. I am love and light. You may not feel like love and light, but you're saying, I want to embody that. I'm speaking that life and that light into myself. I am love and light. Speak those words out loud. Speak them into yourself and speak them into those that you love around you. Okay, Earth Soul family. It has been a beautiful experience. I have so enjoyed tapping in with you. And I just hope that not only does this resonate with somebody, but it helps to heal and understand. We're transmuting energy. We are raising the vibration. And thank you for checking me out. I hope that I can be love and light to you. I can help you along your energetic path of healing. Have a high vibrational, loving day. And I'll see you guys next week. I love you guys. Bye.